It's time for technical updates on Erased. If you've been following me, you might have seen these clips pop up a few times. The game is constantly getting praised for the fluid combat, graphics, and cultural representation. People are always surprised to discover that the game is not made in Unreal Engine. It's being developed by one person in Unity. And there's no pre-made characters. I'm making them from scratch. While Erased has been getting a lot of love, I want it to be the best it can be. And there were some things that could be even better. For one, faces look detailed, but sometimes appear flat, or seem to mismatch the body. 2, the hairstyles look cool, but the hair and cloth physics can be a bit too wild. So here's how I fix it. For one, when you use Unity straight out of the box, using its standard shader, this is what you get. Which is why most people are surprised at making it in Unity and think it's Unreal. The textures are the details you paint on the image, whereas shader is the code that tells the engine how the texture will interact with light. My first approach to improve this was to write a custom shader from scratch instead of using Unity's built-in shader. What my shader did was ignore real-time lights and just show the exact details of the texture at all times using an emissive light. Now this looks much better than the standard shader, but the problem was with the faces ignoring light, this meant there were no shadows and faces can appear flat. Think about it. The only reason we could tell the difference between a circle and a sphere is through the differences in light, which we call a shadow. Differences in light give depth. Now sometimes the faces don't appear as flat, especially when they're by themselves. But when the face is next to something that does interact with light, let's say something metallic, then the difference between the face shader and the rest of the body is even more jarring. So to fix this, I wrote a new shader that both interacts with light and makes textures pop. Now this has true depth and detail and quality. This is a new shader I'll be using going forward. Also, I changed the way I UV unwrap the models so the face and body connections are perfectly seamless. Think of UV unwrapping like origami, where you flatten out a 3D object so you can paint on it in 2D. Next, I wrote up a few new shaders for the hair. Black hair has been a challenge to do correctly in games for a while, and everyone knows Erased is known for the representation. For example, while this style looks cool, the shader wasn't quite right, and it appears a bit too shiny. I created a new hair shader that correctly shows the beautiful kinks and curls of black hair. This is Unity's default shader, this was my old custom shader, and this is the latest update. Now there's the issue with the hair and cloth physics. That's also been fixed, but I'll explain that in another video. So stay tuned and go wishlist Erased on Steam.